Good morning, and Chairman Palmer, thank you for that warm introduction. Barry, thank you for this incredible opportunity. What a great audience. And I will tell you that I do this across the country, and I have the opportunity to work with companies across the country and chambers across the country, and I will tell you that Virginia is at the top of that list of making sure that our veterans and our transitioning service members and their families have incredible opportunities. So thank you for what you do each and every day to make my job easier. Before I get started, though, I do want to clarify, I want to make sure I get started on the right foot. Mr. Palmer mentioned that I was a JAG officer, that I was a lawyer. And I just want to clarify one thing, because I know as soon as you said, oh, he's a JAG officer, he's a lawyer, the first thing you thought to yourself, how much is this going to cost me? And second, there's no way he's going to be able to stick to a half hour because he's going to try to milk the clock, and we'll be here for an hour. So I want to make it very, very clear that I am a recovering lawyer, which means that my eye twitch has started to go away, and I don't lie nearly as much as I used to. So it's great to be a recovering lawyer. But now I have the real honor to lead a great organization for the U.S. Chamber, Hiring Our Heroes. And before I talk a little bit about what the Hiring Our Heroes does and what the Chamber does to help transitioning service members and veterans and their families on a national level, I really want to set the stage a little bit about where we were when we started our organization and effort in 2011 and where we are today, because I think it's really important to have a little bit of perspective on what's occurred over the last 5 years. When we started this program in 2011, as you can see, we were really at a national crisis when we're talking about unemployment, especially for veterans, young veterans especially, and their family members. And over the last couple of years, and you can see, these are just nearly 26% unemployment for 18 to 25-year-old veterans. It was a crisis. But if you look at what we did by the end of 2015, you look at overall unemployment, it's all been cut in half. It's all been cut in half. And 2015, this is the end of 2015 data, if you look at what it is now, it's even more remarkable. And there's a couple of points that I want to make related to these numbers that I think are important for setting the stage. The first point that I want to make is that these numbers on the 2015 numbers only tell a little bit of the story, because if you look at post 9/11 unemployment as of last month, it's 5%. It's 5%, which is a remarkable story. Now, some people say, oh, the economy's gotten better, and so really the reflection number doesn't really reflect the incredible work that the American business community has done. That's just false. If you look at back in 2011, the unemployment rate for post 9/11 veterans was 6.5%. It's now 5%. And we did a recent survey of hiring recruiting managers that will be released November 1st. And I will tell you across the board that veteran recruiting is now at the top of the list with college recruiting and diversity recruiting. And that wasn't the case in 2011. And that's truly a credit to the amazing work that each and every one of you have done in this room. The one thing that we have found, and this is really the second point I want to make about these numbers and the story that they don't tell, is that this has been a tremendous community effort. And it's been some great companies, like those companies here in Virginia, like Capital One and CarMax, companies located here in Richmond, Maximus, Leidos, and really almost every company in this room. That's why you're here. But it's been a remarkable effort. And then you look at some of the efforts of JP Morgan Chase and its Veteran Jobs Coalition. You'll hear from my good friend Ross Brown a little bit. You look at the state and local efforts. Virginia values vets. You look at state workforce agencies. This is truly one of those great success stories of our generation, of how we can put aside the differences that we sometimes see in Washington and really focus on helping these young men and women find real economic opportunity. And it's truly a credit to really that entire community. And we couldn't be more thankful for what's been accomplished in those years. But I also want to point out something that I think is really my third point here, is that we've gone from what the slide labels as a problem now to what is now an opportunity. We're not dealing with the crisis that we were dealing in 2011. In 2011, Hiring Our Heroes was worried about triage. We were simply trying to get in every community that we could possibly get into and connect employers with unemployed veterans. But now it's about strategy. And so I wanted to set that stage because now it's about the opportunity of creating that 21st century modern workforce that's going to deliver tremendous value to your business. I also mentioned and set this floor because it really talks about how we as an organization have changed. As I mentioned, when we were started, we were focused on hiring events. We did nearly 700 in the first 3 years. Over the last couple of years, we've shifted focus a little bit to be a little more strategic about where we go and why we go there. We started to focus significant efforts on moving left of transition, getting on military installations before they get out. The other thing that survey that's going to be released in November is going to talk about is that we have found a clear correlation between how well prepared an active duty service member is for that transition and how happy they are in that next civilian job assignment. There's a clear correlation. They start a year out, their likelihood of being unemployed and being in a job situation that they're not happy with increases significantly. It's just a fact. So we've worked very aggressively as an organization to move left of transition. And we've done it through, again, we still do hiring events. And we've seen great companies, and I think many of you have probably been to one of our hiring events, but we're finding about 15% of all the service members of veterans, military spouses who attend our hiring events are ending up with a job offer at the end of a week or two. Most of them end up with that job offer on the day of that event. So that's been a tremendous aspect of what we do and what we continue to do. I will tell you, I'm going to get here in a second to talk about some of our digital programs and how we've evolved, but from what our experience has taught us, and I think it's very pertinent to what you all do, is you have to have a ground game. You can have great digital programs, you can do all these other things, but you have to have a ground game. And it's really no different than any other experience that you're going to see in any other recruiting aspects of your business. You don't have just digital programs when you go out and recruit college students. You send people on campus, so you have to have a ground game. It's a very important aspect of what we've learned, but there's no one-size-fits-all to being effective in recruiting, because we also know that recruiters, HR staff, recruiting professionals, you have limited budgets, so you can't go to every event every time one pops up. So it's really about being strategic in where you go and how you go, and understanding what's on the ground at the time that those events occur. The other thing we've done that we launched in the last 2 years are some corporate fellowship programs, which we did through the DoD Skills Bridge Authority. If you're not familiar with the DoD Skills Bridge Authority, it essentially allows service members who are within 6 months of transition to go work, or not, actually the lawyer in me, they can't work. You have to give them a training opportunity in your business for 6 months, but they go in and learn your business, and at the end of that period of time, you get to decide whether you hire them or not. Our program in particular is 12 weeks. We do a very extensive screening review of candidates. We then match those companies with prospective employers, and we've seen a tremendous amount of success. If you look at that number, 80% of our fellows are hired at the end of that time period, of that 12 weeks. That means those people aren't going into the unemployment line like so many of their predecessors. They're going straight into business. And it's after they've had a 12-week test run. So guess what? Their retention goes up significantly. You're going to keep these people longer, because if they don't work out, then you don't have any obligation. And we've seen, and here's part of this too, and I can't emphasize enough, is that the companies who've done this program, and we're running one right now out of the National Capital Region, but which is primarily out of Fort Belvoir, and we're going to continue to expand this program. The average starting salary is $70,000 for these fellows. And that's anywhere from an E4 all the way to the 05, 06 level. I'll give you a statistic of the fellowship program that we just closed out Fort Carson, because I have hard numbers on that fellowship. We had 22 fellows, 20 of them got job offers. The other 2 decided to go to school, so as far as I'm concerned, it's a 100% success rate. The average salary, the range of salaries was $55,000 for the E4, $119,000 for the E9. These are life-sustaining jobs. I mean, these are family-sustaining jobs. And guess what? 80% of them also stayed in the Fort Carson, Colorado area. So if you want to keep your folks, this fellowship opportunity is a tremendous way to do so. And we're certainly looking at other places in the Virginia region to expand this fellowship, places like Norfolk and Quantico as well. So we're excited about this program, and I think it's going to continue to grow, and we've had some great companies participate in it. And that really, those are the bricks and mortar events that we've done. And again, that's that ground game that we think is so important. But we also know that you have to have some digital programs in the space. And those digital programs are important because I think one of the biggest challenges that we all face is that service members may be located anywhere in the world. I think they're deployed currently to over 150 countries. Or they may be deployed halfway, or in the United States, halfway across the country, but they want to come back to Virginia. How do you make that happen? And it's that time and space challenge that really makes it difficult sometimes to recruit veterans. It's very difficult, again, to send recruiters halfway across the country in case 5 veterans want to come back to Virginia. So our digital programs are really geared from the employer perspective as well as the veteran perspective of connecting those service members, regardless of where they're located, to companies anywhere in the country. And Resume Engine is one of those. And what I should have mentioned up front, because it probably got your attention like the lawyer joke, is that all these programs are free. It doesn't cost a company in here a cent to participate in our hiring events. It doesn't cost a company anything to participate in these digital programs. You just got to sign up and use them. But Resume Engine is a tool that helps service members translate their skill sets. But more importantly, on the back end, employers can then search the database and pull candidates that are looking for opportunities in specific geographic locations. And you can screen by MOS, you can screen by geography, rank, and so it's a tool that's getting actually ready to relaunch in about 2 weeks, which will have some additional employer features, but allow you to essentially sit back, set your search criteria, and we'll send qualified candidates to your recruiters as soon as that new profile comes into the system. So it's a very powerful tool. Career Spark is another tool that's for military spouses. The one area I will tell you right now, and I'll get into a second, the one area where we have to improve as a country are our military spouses. They're still facing unemployment rates of about 25%. We've seen functionally no significant improvement in that space, and we have to do better because we know, like any modern American family, one income often isn't enough to sustain that family. And so what you have, I had the privilege of a couple of weeks ago hosting Bonnie Amos up at Quantico. And as many of you know, Mrs. Amos is the wife of the former Commandant of the Marine Corps. They spent 43 years in service together. She moved 33 times. 33 times. And she had to give up what was a very lucrative career on many occasions as they moved across the country to serve their country as a family. And so to the extent that we as the American business community, as the Virginia business community, can find ways for the spouses, we have to do that. But Career Spark can help you connect with those spouses anywhere in the country. The other one down in the left-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner, Virtual Job Scout. We're relaunching that one in 2017. That's another way, from a virtual perspective, you can recruit service members across the country. What's really nice about that is it doesn't really matter where they're located. You'll be able to find them. And our plan for 2017 is to do this industry-based hiring events, virtual hiring events, so that if there's a particular industry that we know is attracting a lot of veterans, we'll focus on that, like manufacturing, transportation, and all the finance. all of those industries. So that's going to be a great tool as well. And then finally, Fast Track. That's an industry-by-industry heat map. We partnered with the National Labor Exchange, so many of you who have job opportunities in the... I didn't turn my phone off. That's my fault. But Fast Track is a tool that really highlights some great opportunities throughout the country. It tells a story about you. I don't want it. It's like taking... but Fast Track's a great opportunity to really highlight industries, because one of the things we've also seen is that a lot of service members don't know a lot about industries and opportunities that exist in those industries. So check out fasttrackforheroes.org as a tool as well. The other digital program we have that we think is equally important is our employer-facing training tool called the Employer Roadmap. We partnered with USAA to create this tool. It allows you to take a quick assessment allows each of your recruiters actually take a quick assessment of how sophisticated they are in the recruiting process, and based on that, it delivers best practices from across American business to how to recruit, retain, and ensure that your veterans are getting the most out of that opportunity. And what I want to emphasize about the Employer Roadmap, really for all of you, to the extent that you have best practices, and we work with JP Morgan Chase to get a lot of their Veteran Job Coalition's best practices, this is, again, a free resource that's employer-facing, that to the extent that you have best practices that you would like to include in this system, we're happy to include them. You just got to let us know what's out there, and we're happy to get that in there, because we know, again, this goes back to the community effort. From the Chamber's perspective, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We want to simply take all the great work that the American business community is doing and put it in a place where we can all benefit from it. So that's our digital programs. And it's, again, that's where we are currently. For 2017, I see some tremendous opportunities in 2017. We're still expecting about 225,000 veterans to transition in 2017 alone. There's tremendous workforce opportunities there. Those service members are preparing earlier and earlier in the transition process. There's no doubt about what I see from a DoD perspective. DoD is getting the word out. Service members are getting their certifications and skill sets before they get out, and they're starting to connect with companies earlier. That change requires some companies to lengthen their recruiting runway a little bit, but at the end of the day, what we are seeing with companies that have lengthened that process, they're getting the cream of the crop. They're getting the companies or the service members well before they get out, and they're actually bringing them back to their communities. And that's where the tremendous opportunity moving forward is to connect with those service members and their families before that day when they get their DD-214. And part of what I wanted to also do today and is talk a little bit about lessons learned, because really from a best practices perspective, over the last 5+ years, we've learned quite a bit about our veteran population, our transitioning service member population, our spouse population. And the first thing we've learned is you have to know your audience. And you have to know where they come from, who they are, what makes them tick. The one thing you should know about this population is that the military is ethnically as diverse as the general population. They're coming from every spot in the country, and they're coming from Virginia, they're coming from Pennsylvania, and they're coming from West Coast, East Coast, it doesn't matter. All these young service members are coming because they're looking for better economic opportunity and a better life. 70% of them come from low and middle income families. It's just a fact. And if they were like me, I came from that small town in Indiana, and my dad said, look, and my dad didn't graduate from high school, my mom didn't either. My dad said, look, you got one of two options. You join the military or you're going to college. That was it. And I did both. I went to law school after that. But it didn't necessarily make life or transition easier for me. I certainly had the skill sets now, but I didn't necessarily know how to navigate the business community. So one of the things I want to emphasize about this slide is that when you're dealing with these young service members who've made a commitment to their country, they want a better life. And who doesn't want someone who's trying to pull themselves up by their bootstraps for a better life? And they're willing to work hard for it, and they're willing to sacrifice. I don't think there's a business in this country that doesn't want somebody who is that motivated to make a difference in their lives and their families' lives. But here's the challenge. They don't know what they don't know. And sometimes that not knowing what they not know can be mistaken for arrogance, or it can be mistaken for indifference, or it can be mistaken for a host of other things. But the one thing I'll tell you about this population is that there is not a more committed, harder working, smart, and these are highly trained people, group of men and women in this country than our U.S. service member population. But we have to work to help them understand what opportunities exist in your business. And part of that gets to lesson number 2, which is young service members, low and middle income families, and their perceptions of American industry, American opportunity, are based on TV and their grandparents' perception from the 1970s and 80s of what American opportunity looks like. They think that transportation is Smokey and the Bandit. They do. They think that I'm going to be away, I mean, seriously, they think they're going to be away from their families for weeks on end. They're not getting paid very much. They get in a couple bar fights and run away from cops, but other than that, that's their perception. Now, we know that's not true. 80% of the American transportation jobs are short haul. They'll be home every night with their family. Many of them can start out for $50,000, $55,000 a year. These are good paying opportunities. But you have to combat that. It's the same thing with manufacturing. They think, you know, I ask young service members every time I go out to one of our hiring events, and I always see the ones that have the, if you've been out to a hiring event or you interact a lot with service members, you see there's always a couple that have the deer in the headlights look. They just, you know, they're scared and they're just kind of away from everybody. And I'll go up and I'll often ask them, do you want to be in manufacturing? Like, oh no, oh absolutely not. You know, my dad told me if I didn't join the Army, I was going to end up in the factory just like him and Granddad. So why would I do that? I said, oh, fine. You know, look, okay, fine. Do you want to work with lasers and robots and advanced computer design? Oh yeah, that sounds great. I'm like, you want to be in manufacturing then? But that's your opportunity to sell your industries, because not only do they have a misperception generally about your industries, but they also have a misperception as to American business and the depth and breadth of opportunities that exist in your companies. So you get the young, you know, person who's been working cybersecurity for DOD down at Fort Gordon, and he, you know, interviews and talks to the Microsofts and the Googles of the world because he wants to be in IT. He says, look, they're not hiring, or they're not hiring in the area I want to locate. So what am I going to do? I have these great skill sets. Like, did you talk to Home Depot? Did you talk to Walmart? Did you talk to every company in this room that probably has IT security needs? No, I didn't think about that. And so part of what we have to do as an American business is we have to think about, you know, we know, right? Because we're in it every day. We know why our business is great. We know why we're reshaping the American economy, but they don't. And that's your opportunity to shine and get in front of every other company that does at those events, is if you sell your industries. You're going to make a tremendous difference, not only in your bottom line for your business, but also for these young men and women who are transitioning out. The third lesson, which I think is equally important, is what I call the field of dreams approach to veteran recruiting. You build this, you know, all these great job opportunities. You're going to, you know, create, you know, opportunities in management. You know, create opportunities throughout your business, and you do your job postings, and no one shows up. And you're like, I have all these jobs, and I have all these unfilled jobs, and veterans would be great at these unfilled jobs. But where are they? I can't find them. Or you do get, there are other companies who, mop it up. They're getting hundreds of veterans into their business each and every day, and then they look at their retention numbers, and their bosses are like, what are you doing? Retention is not good here. And a lot of that has to do with being very frank with them up front, and then thinking about, again, where they're coming from. They're coming from a highly structured environment. They're coming from an environment where certain expectations are set for them, and they're expected to operate within those expectations. They know if they spend so many years doing X, Y, and Z, they're going to get promoted to that next level. Or they're going to, they're going to take these tests, and that's going to create these opportunities, or they're going to, be an XO here, and that's going to create some additional opportunities down the road. But a lot of companies, it's not like that in most American businesses. It's not that the promotion pathway isn't that linear. So what you have to help them understand is, okay, not only here's what you're doing now, but here's what you're going to do in the future. These are expectations for you. Because if you level set those expectations up front, your chance of retaining that person go up, skyrocket. That's the other thing that's going to be released in this survey. Because we asked over 1,000 service members, why'd you leave? Why'd you leave? And 70% of them said, better economic opportunity or promotion opportunities. And so if they don't see that within your business, your ability to keep that person, again, plummets. And oftentimes it's not, those opportunities obviously exist. But again, they don't know what they don't know, and they need some help understanding where those opportunities exist. Community is also important to them. You gotta, it's more than just about making money. For a lot of service members who join, they're looking for that shared sense of commitment, of community, of how you're reshaping pathways going forward. And I would venture to say that every business in this room has a corporate responsibility program or something where they're out there working hard in their community. Get them involved in it. Help them understand how your business is not simply a business that is just trying to make money, because we know that's not the case. This is about contributing back to the communities we live in. It's about making America stronger. It's about creating opportunities for folks in your community and young families. That's what American business is about, and it makes us different than any other business around the world. But you have to help them understand that, because again, they don't know what they don't know. And the fourth lesson, don't forget about military spouses. From a military spouse community, I've hired over the last 4 years, I've hired more than a dozen military spouses, and I will tell you to a T, I've found no other employee who works harder, who's more loyal, and who's more committed to the organization than the military spouses, without a doubt. You know why? They just want a chance. That's all they want. Some of you may be thinking, well, they may only stay with my business for a couple years, and then I'm going to lose them because I don't have an opportunity down the road. I would tell you, most of you probably do have an opportunity down the road, especially if you're a national business, that you can help transition them to other locations across the country. But even if you aren't that big business and most of your opportunities are here in Virginia, you take a chance on that spouse and you get 2 fantastic years of incredible work. And that's going to be better than what you get out of a lot of your employees that don't stay as long and don't work nearly as hard. They're incredible people. I've seen no group of people who are more resilient, that can juggle more balls in the air, and who, each and every day, they're taking care of some incredible responsibility. And I can promise you, and for those of you, we do a lot of work with Capital One and to hire military spouses, and I can tell you, and they'll tell you firsthand what a tremendous difference they're making in their business each and every day. Those are really all my lessons learned. It's just a snapshot of what we've done over the last couple of years. We've really appreciated the opportunity to work with all the businesses, and I'll tell you, events like this are really the highlight of what I do. To see companies coming together, joined in a common cause, this is what America's about, and I couldn't be more proud to be a part of hiring our heroes in the U.S. Chamber and be a part of today's event. So thank you very much.